All right, guys. So we are going to get started soon. The purposes of this is more for the podcast that I'm going to cut up and record and have out for you guys tomorrow on all the websites we talked about: Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, all those podcasting sites. Anywhere basically you can get a podcast, it's going to be on Google Podcasts. It's going to be on as well. So everything will be edited down and put on that. So the purposes of this is to talk about the NFL schedule release, talk about everything that went on today and the big games. You're going to see, I'm not somebody who's going to break down the schedule game by game and go win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. That's not what I do. But I will talk about the big games. I'll talk about the strength of team schedules and what they have to deal with. Then we'll talk about what I think will happen. Um, and we'll just talk about every possible scenario of the season. And any questions you have, you say in the chat. So the podcast, when you hear it, it's going to be very oriented towards answering questions, talking about things, moving quickly. This video will also be posted afterwards on YouTube. That'll be in full. I won't edit the video down at all. Second. So we're gonna get into it in a second. I'm gonna give some time to people to get here. So I'm gonna answer questions, and any questions someone has, I will answer. You put it in the chat. We'll talk about it. I want to do more of these. I want to be, with you guys on a different level. So I want to do videos. I want to do live podcasts so we can communicate differently. And you can still look out for the podcasts the same days they come out. We have a podcast recording tomorrow, Coach's Corner, which will be the first of that edition. So that's going to be awesome. That should be edited and out, I would say, by latest Saturday morning. Hope is tomorrow night, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But I mean, you guys have been very good with the views and everything like that. It's been, that's why we're getting all these podcast networks, because they're seeing the views go up, so the pushes are going out. Like I said, I think we're on 6 different podcast websites now. I was just notified today that we're going to be on Google Podcasts, and Spotify was yesterday. And then I just applied for the Apple Music, so Apple Music should be pushed out by tomorrow. So it'll be on iTunes by tomorrow. So that's cool. Every single thing as soon as it's loaded on my end, is going to be loaded straight to iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff. So that's awesome. We're going to try to get more guests from different areas, whether it's football athletes, whether it's people just in media, whether it's all sorts of people. Anyone who's interesting, I want on the podcast. I want to talk to them. I want to talk. If they're into sports, I want to talk sports. If not, let's talk movies. Let's talk news. Let's talk whatever you want to talk about. I'm here for. So that's what I want to do here. As much as the website is the Daily Sports Network, I want to be multifaceted. I want to be all over the place. I want to be doing different things, because that's what I want to do. And I know there's people out there that don't just like sports and they want to hear other things. So that's going to be cool too. Right now we're trying to push as many blogs out as we can on the website to keep that flowing. I'm looking for more bloggers right now. So anyone you know is interested in blogging, send them my way. We're looking for bloggers on the site to get more stuff out. I want to get the content rolling. I'm trying to get as much content as I can out right now to get us started. And so far, it's been really good. So far, the reception's been very good, whether it's reception from people that I know, people in media that I talk to that I've actually known for a while, because a lot of people don't know. A few years back, about 5-6 years ago, I did have a lot of people that I knew inside the media. And we had really good talks and stuff like that. So I've reached out to actually a few of them now, trying to gauge myself back into people who they know. So a lot of you don't know about, I think it was 2014, I did a over the phone interview with Wayne Corbett, and I posted the results online. I was really new to blogging and podcasting, so I could have done a lot more with that interview. I could have made that into an actual podcast, make that into an actual radio call, and I think it would have been very good. But like I said, I was new, I was young to it, and I wasn't ready for it. So the hope is now I know the people in media. So the hope is now they'll reach out again, and we'll get some more contact info. I have a good feeling that I'm going to get a bunch more people from that guy. So that's cool. Hopefully I can get Wayne Corbett again. We could try it again because that was fun. But yeah, there's a couple guys he has all over the sports, not just NFL, baseball, basketball. So we're gonna hope we can get some of those in. We can, have our audience branched out. I'm gonna talk to whoever. I'm having a ton of fun with this. So I knew tonight with the schedule release, for us right now, this is what we have sports wise. When there's more things going on, when there's a Mets game or a Jets game or a Devils game, a Nets game, whatever, New York sports, any big game, I'll do instant reaction podcasts after every game. But right now, this is what we have. We had the draft. I did 2 recap shows for the draft. With I did the draft show with a guest. So we did 2 of those. We're gonna do one for the schedule release. Every little sports event we can. There's a big UFC fight Saturday. I'll probably do an instant reaction after that. I want the instant reactions. I want you guys when a game's over, almost like a post game show, to log in and see, oh, he's talking about the game. And most of the time, I'm gonna be on a site where you can be very we can go back and forth. We could talk about it. Whether it's the chat, which I'm gonna keep my eye on as much as I can, but whether it's the chat, whether it's however way we can do it, you guys are just as much a part of this as anybody else is. So I want everybody to be able to communicate with me. I want you to email me, text me, I don't care, Facebook, Twitter, everything. I'm here. So I want to keep that line of communication with the fans, with everybody who watches us, because you guys are what we're having this for. So we want you guys to enjoy it as much as anybody else. So I want your feedback. I want to know what kind of articles you don't like. I'm trying to keep things obligated to a day by day situation. So every Sunday we'll have the draft bust report. Every Monday we're gonna have a rankings, the Monday morning rankings. Every Wednesday we're gonna have the draft prospect breakdown, which I had this week with Mekhi Becton. Hopefully I can get some interviews to line up on those days. So that would be cool. But the content's gonna keep coming out, and so I want to make sure everything is regimented. I want to make sure everything is by the day. But again, something you don't like, something you want to do more, something you like a lot, let me know, and I'll listen and I'll push more of that out or not push much of that out. But that's where I'm at. I'm just trying to find my find where I'm standing here and get that going forward. That's the biggest thing right now. We're gonna start in about 2 minutes with the draft breakdown, or excuse me, the schedule breakdown. For you guys to know, I have typed the words draft breakdown and draft recap so many times on different podcast sites to write the titles and descriptions that that's all I could think of right now. So if I say the draft breakdown a bunch of more times today, just let's let that slide. I mean schedule release. I can't edit my voice in a podcast, so you might hear it again in the podcast. But yeah, if I say draft, I mean schedule, and that's where we're at. About 30 seconds, we'll get going here. I'm going to start it as if I'm starting the podcast. So I'm going to say welcome back, get going, just so it's easier to edit down later. I might keep this part in because I think it's very good for everyone to hear, where they could send suggestions, where they go, where they're getting the podcast. I'll probably say that again, but I think this is a good segment to leave in. So yeah, like I said, we're starting in a couple minutes here. Chat's right there. You let me know any suggestions, questions. It doesn't have to be just football tonight. I mean, I'm talking the schedule release, but any question you have, throw it in there. I will answer it. We'll talk about it. It's not a question. It could be a topic. We'll talk about it. I don't care. I'm here tonight. So obviously this is geared towards football. This is geared towards the schedule that was released. But I want to do these more often, and I want to branch all over the place. I want to do an hour at a time every now and then where we could talk about whatever. We could talk about MMA, golf, whatever you want to talk about. I want to do more of these because it adds to the stuff we're putting out. So that's the biggest thing I'm doing right now. Yeah, 15 seconds. We'll start at the 10-minute mark. We're about 10 minutes in. Let people get fully settled here. Check one thing. Get going. All right, guys. Welcome back. For those of you who weren't here in the beginning, this is going to be turned into a podcast form. This is going to be the schedule release instant reaction podcast. Like I said, this will be turned into a podcast tomorrow. Anything you want to talk about in the chat, as I've mentioned, send it in. We will talk about it no matter what it is. But yeah, so this podcast is going to be mainly for the instant schedule reaction, and that's the biggest thing we're talking about today. As you know, the schedule is released at 8 o'clock. It started releasing earlier. It started releasing at like 10 a.m., and I was considering doing it earlier because it made more sense, but I was afraid if things came out that weren't true or things that came out that were false, I wasn't going to go down that road. So I just waited for the original time, and that's how we were going to do it. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was the Jets and Giants schedule because we are based out of New York. Most of our stuff, if the first thing we're going to talk about is going to be New York sports for the most part, unless there's something going on outside of New York, then we'll branch out. But New York sports is first and foremost. We'll start. I mean, obviously, we'll start with the Jets. I took a look at their schedule, and actually, if you look at the Jets and Giants schedules side by side, they're very similar because we play similar teams. Very similar in the amount of road games, very similar amount of home games. Not road games total. I know 8 games, but the back-to-backs on the road, back-to-backs at home, Monday night, Thursday night. Jets first and foremost, one Monday, one Thursday, no Sundays. I don't think they played a Sunday night game in 3 years, which is fine with me. But we have Monday night. We have the Patriots. I think I can pull it up right now as we're sitting here. Patriots in week 9 on Monday night game on ESPN. And the Thursday night game is week 4 against the Broncos at home. So you're not traveling there, which is always good. I feel like we always lose when we're in Denver, but we're home for this one, so we'll see how it goes. But looking at the rest of that schedule, it's a tough schedule. You got the Bills, the Niners, the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Patriots will still be tough because they're the Patriots. Seahawks, Rams, Browns. I mean, it's not easy. It's doable, but it's not easy. And like I said earlier, I'm not somebody who is going to break down game by game. We're not going to do a win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. That's not what we're going to do because no one knows right now. But like I said in the pre-show, I will be doing, figuring out where I feel they could be, just based off the opponents, not based off one by one, but where I feel they could be. And at the end of it, I'm gonna do a little game where every time we do an NFL show and things happen, I want to update what I think the Super Bowl might look like. Who is my favorite right now, which we'll talk about later. And maybe it's based off the scheduling, maybe it's based off the opponents I know they're gonna have. But yeah, so we're dive back into the Jets here. Like I said, schedules is above average. It's definitely a tough schedule when you have the Bills in Buffalo at first, then you come home for San Francisco and go to Indianapolis, and then have a Thursday night game. We've had worse starts to the seasons before, where we play dominant teams back to back to back to back. So it's doable. You come out of there 2-2, you start the season well. But everything else for the Jets, again, be brutal schedule. I could see them going different spots. I think looking from afar, I think 8-8. I do. I think somewhere around that. I don't see them going crazy higher than 8-8. Just because they're still on the process of moving upwards. They're not there this year. Unless they make another move, they're not there. But they're building right. Finally, we talked about this on the podcast, the draft recap. The arrow's pointing up. I think for most of the division, the arrow's pointing up. Dolphins, Bills, and Jets are all pointing up. Patriots are pointing down. We'll talk more about the Patriots later. But the Jets schedule's tough. I think 8-8 would be good. 8-8 would be fair. I'd be probably happy with 8-8, of course, when it gets down to it, if we were one game out of the playoffs. But you look at it last year, if Sam Darnold doesn't miss those games with mono, this team very easily could be 9-7. And a couple games they should have took even with Sam Darnold in the lineup. So it was a weird year. Hopefully they grow from that and they move towards the ultimate goal, which is, building a Super Bowl winner. Having the Patriots on a Monday night game is not a bad one. With Jarrett Stidham, Patriots still got 5 primetime games, which that's something I'll talk about in a little bit. It's odd. It's odd to say the least, but Jets have them on a Monday night game, week 9. So that'll be interesting. I believe that is in New York. Yes, at MetLife. That'll be a Monday night game, and then the Thursday night game we talked about in Denver. I don't love primetime games as a fan, so it's cool to see not many. Cool for me. Not a lot of 4 or 5 games either. I think 3 or 4, 4 or 5 games. We don't know week 15 and 16. If they mean something, they could potentially be on a Saturday. If they mean something. And then you got to remember we're going to have games on Christmas Day too. I don't know how many, but there will be games on Christmas Day this year. I just saw that. I think 1 or 2. I don't think Jets play on Christmas Day though. They play on the 29th. So I don't want to spend too much time, but the Jets look at their schedule. Like I said, pretty rough schedule. 8-8 would be awesome. 8-8 would be really cool. So staying in New York, jump to the Giants, which I said very similar schedule. Similar opponents. They have San Francisco early. I'm actually going to pull up their schedule right now, so I know what I'm looking at. I did look a little bit before and pull up some big games we'll talk about later. But Jets and Giants, I wanted to key in on. Giants, it's tough. You have Steelers, Bears, Niners, Cowboys. Bears wouldn't be tough, I don't think, but it's in Chicago. That's tough. You obviously have the Eagles, Cowboys twice every year. You have to play Tom Brady. Seattle, Cardinals, Baltimore. I mean, it's not easy. And it's similar to the Jets where it's a tough schedule. But I also think, again, similar, is that Giants and Jets are both teams that are around that 8-8 mark to me. I think Giants maybe a touch below the Jets. I don't think the disparity is that big. I think like a touch. Maybe their peak is 7-9, Jets peak's 8-8. I don't know. I think it's very close. And the schedules are so similar that it's going to end up being close. Both teams have that week 11 bye week, which is interesting, but why they would have both New York teams on a week 11 bye instead of staggering that, I don't know. But I thought one of the biggest notes was Giants opening up with the Steelers on a Monday night. We'll talk about the Monday night games in a little bit because I looked at all the primetime games and they did a good job scheduling them this year compared to years past where there were some bad games. They did a good job. Giants Steelers to start the season is pretty cool. That's going to be the Monday night game that's early to start the season. So Giants Steelers there. And what was weird to me was, I don't know. I mean, I have to look up the facts on it. Someone wants to post about it, but I don't know the last time the Giants and Cowboys didn't open the season on a Sunday night game. Maybe last year. I don't remember. No, I think they played last year on Sunday night. But they kind of moved off of that, which is good. I think that's even Giants fans are probably okay with that because how many years in a row are you going to play the Cowboys to open the season? Giants, we talked about the Jets with their primetime games. Giants open up on a Monday night. They have a week 7 Thursday night with Philly at Philly. Could be tough. Then right after that, they have another Monday night game against the Buccaneers with Tom Brady. And that's it for primetime. So they get 3 primetime games. Eagles, Tampa, and Pittsburgh to open the season. Not a lot of 4 o'clock games. 3 of them are 4 o'clock. Everything else is 1 o'clock starts, which is cool. Giants, good schedule, I think. I said it's tough. It's tough like the Jets, but both of them have a situation where you don't have many tough back-to-backs where you're going big road trips. The one for the Giants that gets dicey is they go right after the bye week, so that's where it helps is you're traveling after but you're going right off the bye week. You're going to Cincinnati, and then the next week you're going to Seattle. So it's a back and forth there. But actually the same kind of thing in week 4. Week 4 they go to Los Angeles and then go to Dallas. That's not easy either. So they do have some bad swings there. But not too bad where you go 3 in a row where there's been teams in the past that have to have 2 games in a row on West Coast time and they just stay there, or they come back halfway and practice in Ohio or Idaho, whatever halfway is, or whatever's closer that they can stay. Teams have done that in the past, and it's always tough traveling for a Sunday game. You're traveling on a Friday or a Saturday, and you're staying. It's just a weird system. So the back to back isn't too tough to have to go to Dallas and Cincinnati. They don't have any big West Coast trips, which is always good. That's what I always look at. I always look at the first thing I look at is the back to backs. I look at the primetime games. And really, I've always been trained, and this is from people I've talked to in the past, is to look, and coaches do the same, to look at the first 4 games on the schedule. Teams will have a different feel for how they are after week 4. So you look at the first 4 and how they're going to handle that first 4, and how you come out of the gate. You come out of the gate 0-4. I don't know the statistic, but you've all seen the statistics. It's not good. You come out of the gate 4-0, it's good. Teams love when they can come out of the gate 500. You come out of the gate 2-2, you've set yourself up nicely. For the Giants, you have Pittsburgh at Chicago, home for San Francisco, at Rams. 2-2 is going to be good. You get out of there 2-2, you're happy. 2 games on the road, you split them. That's good. And I think we'll talk about this later. I'm lukewarmish on the 49ers as a team, rebounding. But Giants get them in New York. So that's a big thing because you're getting a team in New York that has to travel from West Coast to East Coast. So that benefits you for a team like San Francisco. But we'll see. I mean, first 4 games, what I look at, I told you, I look at the back-to-backs. I look at the primetime games because those are what you look in on. I'm not, like I've said multiple times, I don't break down each game win by win. I just say you need to be here by there. You get to week 10, you want to be 500. You don't want to be under 500. It's just this league is so tough now. So that uphill climb, if you're a game or 2 games under 500 by the time you get to week 11, is just too steep. And even if the Eagles have done it a few times, but that division's been so competitive that 9-7 takes it. I have a feeling that this year 9-7 won't take the East. We'll talk about it later. I think the Cowboys win this division. And I don't think it's 9-7. I think it's 12-4. I think it's 11-5. It's not going to be that kind of year. So you got to get out of the gate fast this year. But we will talk about also later is they did add one more wild card team. So there's 7 playoff teams now. So you can maybe slide in at 8-8, 9-7, maybe as a wild card team. But you just got to get off to a fast start. Can't talk about that enough. And Giants and Jets both first 4. If they come out 2-2, that's very good for them. We touched on the Jets and Giants and their week 1 starts. We need to talk about the rest of the league, and we have a couple of games in week 1. We have the Saints and the Buccaneers going head-to-head, so you get to see that Tom Brady versus Drew Brees for the first time. That's going to be fun. Welcome Brady to the NFC South. I guarantee you it's going to feel different than the AFC East. You play teams with Cam Jordan. You play teams with all the Falcons edge rushers. They're mean. It's a physical division. So welcome to the NFC South, Brady. We talked about this on the podcast, and I'm excited to see Brady in a different uniform. I always had this weird feeling of hating him because he was a Patriot, but liking him for who he was as a player. So I'm excited to see what he does in the NFC South with the Buccaneers. That's one of the week 1 games. Tom Brady and the Buccaneers have 5 primetime games. We'll touch on a few of them as we go along. But 5, that's the max you can have primetime-wise. So they hit the max. Patriots hit the max, which is stupid. Rest of week 1, you have the Browns and the Ravens. So you get Lamar versus Baker week 1. That's very fun. I think the Browns are going to be better. Yeah, I think Browns going to be better. And Lamar and the Ravens should be right back on that point. So I like that head-to-head. That's a fun head-to-head. Breeze Brady, Lamar Baker, that's a good start quarterback-wise. And then you look at the Monday Night Football schedule. You start the Giants Steelers, which we talked about. That's a 7:15 start because there's 2 games to open it up. 7:15 start for Giants Steelers. And after that is the Broncos and Titans, which is a fun game. Broncos seem to always play that first Monday night game. And the Titans are a team that can go. They're going to go to the West Coast. They're going to run the ball hard. I think you're going to see a full season of that Titans team and their identity for a full year this time instead of just the end of the year. Um, so that's fun. Um, Denver, Tennessee, Pittsburgh Giants. It's a good opening week Monday Night Football. Um, so I'm glad I touched on Monday Night Football because, like I said before, I always look at Monday, Thursday, and Sunday. I look at the games that they've posted for those 3 nights, and they did good this year. And I wrote down some notables from the Monday Night Football. And you have the Chiefs Ravens, I believe, in week 4. Chiefs Ravens, um, the Cardinals Cowboys, Vikings Bears, Rams Buccaneers, Seahawks Eagles, Bills San Francisco late in the year, and Browns Ravens. Those are 7 good quality Monday night games. In the past we've had games where it was like Dolphins versus Colts on a Monday night game in Miami, or Jaguars and Falcons, and it was just like, blah. But this year, that's 7 games that are going to be ultimately competitive with teams that are all should be fighting in a playoff race. Touch on the Rams in that bunch. I think the Rams will be right back in it. I've talked about it in the podcast. The Rams and Bears, they didn't do themselves favors in the offseason, but they were 1 game off last year of making the playoffs, and a season off of both being 12-4 and up teams. So I don't see how it's that far for them to come back to where they were. Maybe not 12-4, but to compete for the wild card, I think they're both in that discussion. So those games get better. Bears Vikings are always fun. Rams Buccaneers, that's gonna be a fun one too. That's gonna be a lot of points. And obviously the Chiefs and Ravens, a lot of points. Someone jokingly said the over under starts at 80 for that game, and I kind of agree. It's gonna be a track race out there. So they did good with scheduling the Monday night, and as we keep going, they did good with the Thursday night good too. Um, I should have left that screen up for myself. Of course I didn't. So why would I make it easy on myself? Um, but the Thursday night games looks pretty good. A lot of games versus the division like usual, but not the bad games versus the divisions. Not the Jaguars Colts. Um, I'm gonna pull this up for you guys right now. A lot of this stuff, the small things you might not hear in the podcast tomorrow, because I'm gonna go through it and get it down and crop it. Of course, I click on Sunday Night Football, not Thursday Night Football. But yeah, like I said, in the Thursday night games, you're always going to get the games in division. You're always going to get those teams going head to head. Thursday Night Football. Okay, so some of these games, your Browns Bengals, that's whatever. Jets Broncos, the Bears and Buccaneers, which isn't bad. Bills Chiefs Week 6 is fun. Then you have Eagles Giants, which is a good one. Panthers Falcons is okay. 49ers Packers on a Thursday night, Week 9. Seahawks Cardinals Week 11 on a Thursday. Ravens Cowboys Week 12. Rams Patriots Week 14. That's a pretty good Thursday night football schedule. And as someone just asked about the Las Vegas Raiders, they got some Thursday night games. And the question is, how do I think they're going to be playing in Vegas? What's the view on the Raiders in Vegas? And I think it's a good fit for them. I think as much as their fan base is based out of Oakland, and they do travel well. I went to a Raiders Jets games a few years back, and the fan base was like 30% Raiders. They travel really well. I don't think it'll be a problem bringing their fans to Vegas. I think they'll travel to those games very much easier than it was to come to the East Coast. And they gain new fans in Vegas. You saw in the hockey scene, but let's preface that you have to be successful, or at least moderately successful. The hockey team was easier. They made a cup. They made a cup run, so that brought the fan base out really quick. But my hope, and I think Raiders fans should hope, is because the Vegas hockey team succeeded, it may be easier for fans to go out to want to watch sports and want to go watch the Raiders play. So that's a pretty cool spot for them. They are not the first team in, the second team in. Now they gain those fans that are back into sports. That whole city's been been excited. So I don't know the Raiders as a team. Pretty average on them right now. I think they have a chance to go off because they do have skill. I haven't loved their drafts, but they're there. And getting a new city for them is probably, in my opinion, it's a good start for them, and it changes the impact of that city for sure because they haven't had a football team. So they add that. They're talking about adding a basketball team. So they're starting to bring things around there. So I think they're realizing this. The sports fans are out, and it's definitely a good spot for them. Thank you for the question. But yeah, the Thursday night games we talked about. We just talked about the Raiders. They're going to play Week 16 versus the Chargers, which is an okay game with Justin Herbert. They had a couple Monday and Sunday night games I saw as well, and yeah, so they get some primetime game. I actually think they got 4, which is one under the maximum you can get. So it definitely helps Vegas. I think they have 3 of them that are primetime games are in Vegas, so that helps. And we'll keep on the primetime games. The Sunday night games are pretty good as well. I wrote down some of these. We have Cowboys, Rams, Saints, Packers, Eagles, 49ers, Vikings, Seahawks, Rams, Seahawks, Buccaneers, and the Raiders, which we talked about in Vegas, Tom Brady. The Cowboys, Eagles, Saints, Buccaneers. That's the second game of theirs. 49ers, Cowboys, and Packers and Titans. Again, that's a good mix of games on a Sunday Night Football where we had some games last year where I don't know if it was because of the way they scheduled the Sunday night games last year, or that a lot of teams that were supposed to be good or at least above average weren't. Bears got a lot of Sunday night games. Rams got a lot of Sunday night games. Browns got some Sunday night games, and these were teams. Steelers, because you thought you'd have Ben. All 3 of those teams, or 4 of those teams, were below where they were supposed to be. So that changed the aspect of how Sunday Night Football games looked last year because you can't flex out, I think, until week 14. So they couldn't change the schedule. So we had some games. It was like the Steelers and Mason Rudolph versus the Browns, or I think Bears and Rams went head to head too. So it was like Mitch Trubisky. They did. That was the game where he had that phantom shoulder injury where they just wanted to bench him and they didn't want to make it a big deal. That was that game. So Sunday night games were weird last year, and I don't know if it was the NFL's fault or if it was mere the fault of what ended up happening. Teams became below average that weren't supposed to be. But we touched on that Sunday Night Football schedule this year. We have 3 games of the 49ers. That's fun. 2 games of 49ers. That's fun. They're going to be in as many primetime games. Like I said, maximum's 5. They got all 5. I think the teams that got all 5 primetime games were the Patriots, the Cowboys, the 49ers, the Buccaneers, the Saints. That was it. I think those are the 5. Maybe the Chiefs instead of the Saints. Or the Chiefs also. I don't think there was 5 teams. I think there was like 7 teams. Yeah, Chiefs also. Ravens too. They got the maximum, and as they should. And while we're here, let me go on my little mini rant here. Patriots getting the 5 maximum primetime games is ridiculous. I get it. They're the Patriots, and I get it. They've been at that level. We don't know because we never want to count out the Patriots, but it's going to be a rough year in New England. You're talking about they're putting their money on Jarrett Stidham. And you put Jarrett Stidham in 5 primetime games. That's a bad look because they're the Patriots. And I get it. They're the Patriots. But they don't belong on a primetime game. The Giants have had some success over the last 10 years. Doesn't mean they get 5 primetime games. They lost Eli. They lost their primetime games. I do think Daniel Jones will be good. That's another subject we'll talk about. But they lose Eli, they lose their primetime games. So it's a matter of that. It's a matter of what we want to watch. We don't want to see Jarrett Stidham and the Patriots versus Ryan Tannehill and the Titans on a Sunday Night Football. We don't want to see that. We don't want to see Jarrett Stidham on Sunday night, Monday night, or Thursday night. I barely want to see him on a Sunday 1 o'clock game. Now, I know because I've now said that, as a Jet fan, Stidham will turn into the next Tom Brady. Just so all you guys know that I am a mush. And because I just made that whole rant, they have just found their future with Jarrett Stidham. So congrats to the Patriot fans. But like I said, I don't want to watch Stidham at 1 o'clock. I don't want to watch him on a Sunday afternoon. And we have to see them 5 times prime time. That's a problem. And I don't want to go too hard on the NFL for putting them on 5 games because they did do a good job with the primetime games, as I've said. But 5 times you got to watch Stidham. I mean, hopefully he's bad, and hopefully you just get to watch the Patriots get beat down 5 times because that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, I just need to get that out. I need to get that feeling out of the 5 primetime games, which is just nuts for the Patriots. And I guess if you're a Patriot fan, good for you. But yeah, something I wanted to touch on also. The scheduling. The Chiefs Texans opening night is a weird one for me. Because I think Chiefs Ravens should have opened it up. I get it every year where they want to start. Obviously, the Super Bowl champion. It's the banner night. It's all that stuff. But I feel like they match them up with teams just to see them win, and I don't think that's the right way to do it. I mean, we saw the Chiefs Patriots a few years ago. Because I want to let people know the Texans aren't going to be good this year. We need to be. I know we've seen the Texans have a steady level of moderate success, like 9-7, 10-6, second round berth. Like people need to know they're not going to be good this year. So you open them up at Kansas City, probably to take a beating. I know in the divisional round of the playoffs, it was a fun game to watch. It was high tempo. But watching them on opening night, Mahomes Watson is cool, but I would have rather seen the Chiefs play the Ravens to open it up. I think that'd have been a blast. I'd rather seen the Chiefs play the Titans to open it up. I'd rather see the Chiefs play the Broncos, a division rival, to open it up. I'd rather see the Chiefs play the Dolphins opening night. I just think that Chiefs Texans isn't a rivalry for an opening night. I don't. I'd rather them play a team that can beat them on opening night. That's what I remember growing up. Was that banner night was a tough game. I remember the Steelers had a tough one when they won their banner with the Titans. They went head to head. Patriots had the Chiefs. Patriots had the Steelers. Patriots had the Colts. So it was always a tough game, and I don't see the Texans being a tough game. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe they feel differently in the NFL, but I don't love the opening to a season being Chiefs and Texans. And this partially goes into maybe a regression of the Chiefs this year. Their schedule is tough because keep that game out because I just said that's going to be a stomping for them. But the Chiefs have a tough schedule. When you look at, I mean, yes, they're Super Bowl champion. Yes, they're the best in the league, the class of the league. But you have Baltimore on that schedule, which is tough. You have the Bills. You have the Buccaneers, the Saints. Actually, I'm going to redact what I just said. I'm going to absolutely pull back what I just said. Their schedule is very easy. I kept seeing them on these primetime games, so I just assumed when you have 5 moderately tough primetime games that the schedule must be tough. And then I looked at it, and they have the Texans, the Chargers, the Raiders, the Broncos, the Jets, Raiders again, Broncos again, Dolphins, Chargers again, and Falcons. They may go 15-1. I take back what I said. I want that to be known. I want that to be on the record. Their schedule is very easy. So, like I was saying, they do have some good primetime games. We talked about them having the Ravens on Monday Night Football. That's fun. And then the Ravens again, I believe, on Sunday night or Thursday. I thought, no, that wouldn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. So yeah, they had them on a Monday night game. So that'll be cool to watch. And then in week 15, they go to New Orleans. So that's another fun game to look out for. Mahomes and the Chiefs versus Drew Brees and the Saints. Could be Breeze's last year, so I want to enjoy a lot of this. I want to enjoy the game one with Brady Breeze. I want to enjoy um, Mahomes versus Breeze. I want to enjoy all of it because it could be Breeze's last year, and it could be Winston's team. And I want to touch on. I mean, we'll talk more in podcast going forward, but Winston with a great decision to go to New Orleans. It's the best thing for his career, and I'm happy he did that for him. He's a good quarterback. I really believe that. I know the interceptions piled up last year, and I'm telling you right now, people joke about it, but his eyes were actually messed up. He could not see, and he refused to get them fixed. This offseason, he got them fixed. Maybe a small thing, maybe a stupid thing. Look out for that. And if the Saints are smart, they lock him up as their next franchise guy. Good situation. Good situation for Jameis. So good for him. Very good for him. And I wanted to touch on this, but I kind of did before, was how coaches and players view the schedule when they see the schedule. From what I've heard, players, first thing they look at, the bye week. That's the first thing they look at. When am I going on vacation? When do I get to see my family? They look at the road trips. They look at the back-to-backs. And coaches look at the first four. We talked about that before. They look at the first four games. How are we starting? We need to do this. We need to beat this team here for the first four games. After that, it's all in the air because you could be a completely different team by week 5 than what you thought you were week 1. The Titans were a different team week 1 than they ended up being. Their identity was different. Yes, they ran the ball, but their identity was not running to the system they did at the end of the year. They ran the ball as first. They were a run first team all along, but they became a run first team in week 14, 15, 16 playoffs. 17 too. I don't know why I just jumped 17. I guess I just don't care about it. They became a running team. So week 1, the point is your team does not look like it does even week 5, even week 6. It does not look the same because so much happens and you see so much from your team. Like, who knows? The Jets could go in thinking they're going to stretch the field, they're going to run the ball hard, and they're going to be a balanced team. And then all of a sudden, Le'Veon goes back to the old Le'Veon, and now they're a run-first team, and they run quick passes to Le'Veon. And that works. It changes your team. It changes the dynamic. What you're getting from rookies, you don't know what that rookie's going to impact your team. The Bengals are a team that they're banking on the team running through Burrow. What if he struggles? Now you're a team that has to run the ball dominantly. You have to try to run the ball dominantly. So you don't know what you're getting until middle of the season. So when you look at your schedule, you try to figure out the beginning of the schedule and see who we have, what are we going to learn from these teams, what are we going to learn about ourselves from these teams. That's how coaches, I've always been told, feel about the beginning of the season. The players are just going out there to play. They care about their bye weeks. They care about the road trips. And they usually care about if they have to go to a London game. There is no London games this year. They don't have to worry about that. But yeah, I just wanted to give you a glimpse of what I've heard coaches and players look at. And that was it. So what I want to talk about now, and I talked about this before, was my predictions for the season. Every time I do a podcast, I want to keep you guys updated. I mean, not every time. So if I do an NFL podcast today and an NFL podcast on Monday, I'm not going to give you my prediction again because it hasn't changed. But what I will say is I'm going to give it to you now. And if it's a month in between, I'm probably going to if it updates, I'm going to keep telling you guys what I think. Who's my division winners? So we're going to start that up right now. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep this under an hour tonight. So last 15 minutes. But yeah, prediction wise, my division winners right now are in the AFC. We'll start in the AFC. Division winners are the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bills, and the Titans. I think Titans just squeak out that division. I think Bills will win that division by 1 or 2 games, and Ravens and Chiefs will dominate. 3 wild card teams in the AFC: Steelers, Colts, and although I just talked about them being a bad team, I still have the Texans as that last seed. Them and the Broncos are interchangeable to me. I think that 7 seed in the AFC is going to be bad. I do. I don't think they have a chance in the first round, whoever they play. So that basically sets up Ravens Texans in the first round, Bills Colts, Steelers Titans. There I'd have Ravens, Bills, and Steelers advancing. I think Steelers as a wild card team are a scary threat, in my opinion. And you'll see how I go through with that. I want to finish the AFC first, then I'll go to the NFC because then it gets messy. I'll also probably post this as a blog at some point, so you'll get that too. But yeah, so I have Ravens, Bills, Steelers advancing. Then I have the Chiefs over the Steelers, Ravens over the Bills, and pretty standard Chiefs and Ravens in the AFC Championship. And I send the Chiefs to the Super Bowl. I think they'll repeat back to that point, and we'll see them in the Super Bowl again. Jumping to the NFC real quick, I have my division winners as the Saints, the Seahawks. Now, when I say my division winners, it's the order I have them in. So Saints, we get the bye week. Seahawks, Cowboys, Vikings. The NFC North was tough to predict because I'm not NFC North. NFC North. I was right. NFC North. It's going to be tough to predict with the Vikings, Bears, and Packers. I think Bears come back to life a little bit. They're in that discussion. So Vikings and Packers are still tough. I think Vikings win that. I think they win that division at 10-6. So they get that last divisional spot. Wild card teams. Now, you did hear me say it right. The Seahawks winning that division. I think 49ers, regular season wise, take a smidgen step back. Regular season wise, and you'll understand why I'm saying regular season wise in a second. The wild card teams would be then the 49ers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Eagles. I think the Eagles are a wild card team. I think two teams come out of the East. I think Packers just missed. They'd be the team just missing. Because you have to remember this year with this extra wild card team, that last spot, that seventh seed, is going to be fought hard. Everyone's going to be very close going into that last week, and I think that's the point of what they want. On top of another playoff game. So NFC, we go Seahawks playing the Eagles, Cowboys playing the Buccaneers, 49ers playing the Vikings. I have the Seahawks, Cowboys, and Niners advancing. Seahawks, Eagles, I think Eagles would just be a little – I think Seahawks would be a little too much for the Eagles still. Cowboys still taking out the Buccaneers. I think Brady's going to be – next year is a better year for the Buccaneers. I don't think they're there yet this year. I mean, everyone wants to talk about what they've added, what the team looks like. I don't think they're quite there yet. I don't. 49ers, I think, would steamroll the Vikings. I think when the playoffs start, the 49ers turn into a different team, in my opinion. Because of that run game, I think they're going to be the same team they were last year. When the playoffs start. Like I said, regular season, a touchback, playoffs, different team. NFC Championship, we got the 49ers playing the Saints and the Cowboys playing the Seahawks. Oh, let me rephrase that. That is the NFC divisional game, excuse me. I have the 49ers taking out the Saints. I think, again, running is too dominant. At that point, 49ers will be locked in. I got the Niners. Cowboys, Seahawks. I have Cowboys over the Seahawks. I think Cowboys are a good team this year. I think they can, with McCarthy, will rely a little bit on the run game, and not just Ezekiel Elliott, but also Tony Pollard. They're going to use both of them to extremes. They're going to throw the ball all over the field. Defense took a step back, and I still think that defense is good enough to be average at the least. So I think they would jump over the Seahawks. So now you have 49ers Cowboys in the NFC Championship. And I think 49ers win that. I do. I think the run game, again, is too much for the Cowboys. And when the 49ers get going, when they're at their best, you saw it last year, they will take the clock away from you. They will take 60% of the game and just run away with it. And you don't get a chance to combat them. And all of a sudden you blink and they've taken up 18 minutes of the first half clock and they're up 20-6. And you realize quick things are happening. So 49ers, I think, get back to that point. So Chiefs, Niners, Super Bowl again. I think they're the two best teams in the league when it comes down to it. Like I said it, I'll say it again. Niners, smidgen back regular season. I think they're just a game below where they were last year. Seahawks take a game up, in my opinion. But when it push comes to shove in the playoffs, I think the 49ers get right back to that point. I really do. And I think they have the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. But I predict, as of now, things change. My Super Bowl winner right now is the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they do it again. Similar situation. I think, if anything, the Chiefs really didn't play that good last year in the Super Bowl. They got dominated for most of that game, and they turned it on when they needed to. I still think that attack will be too much for the Niners. I think they needed, if there was any weakness you saw in the 49ers in the offseason, was the cornerback position outside of Sherman. After that, they did get exposed. Sherman could not hang with Tyreek Hill for the whole game. He did a good job on him until came down to it, and they moved Tyreek Hill around so much. There was nobody else to lock in on Tyreek Hill, and I thought they would address that in the draft or free agency. They didn't. They replaced offensive line, which is going to be a great fit. Trent Williams. They replaced defensive line, which I love Javon Kinlaw. But when push comes to shove in the Super Bowl, I do believe that passing attack is too much for the 49ers there. So back to back on the Chiefs. I know it's a bold thing to predict that a back to back Super Bowl winner. But something feels right about them. Something feels like they don't miss a beat. They didn't have a great draft, but they didn't have super needs. Their running back need, and I didn't like taking Clyde Edward-Helaire there, but he's a good fit for that offense. They had a high enough grade on him, and I didn't love the pick at that spot, but I like the player. And you lock him with Damian Williams, they've filled that need, and their biggest need was running back, and they had Damian Williams in the room. It's a weird spot. It's a weird spot. So yeah, that's my prediction. Um, again, before I leave here, I want to preface again. Thank you guys. Thank you everybody for tuning in, for reading my blogs, watching my podcast, listening to my podcasts. It's shown to these websites that show them. I've gained more advertisers. I've gained new places to put them. So that's awesome. Thank you guys. You know where to go by now. That it's thedailysportsnetwork.com for daily blogs, daily content, and now the Daily Sports Network podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, everywhere you can imagine it's going to be. So any podcast network that you use, it's going to be there. So that was my goal, to get it as many things as possible. Like I said, expect tomorrow. I have my first episode of the Coach's Corner. I have a Division III college football offensive coordinator coming on. He's actually a really good buddy of mine, so we'll talk to him tomorrow. And I'll get that podcast out tomorrow night. I'm going to rip this up. This podcast will be out tomorrow morning. But like I said, everything won't be on it. I'm going to edit it down a little bit. So if you joined tonight, you got to see stuff that no one else is going to hear, unless you watched on YouTube, and then you'll see everything. I'm just trying to make you feel special, but I'm not doing a good job with that. So yeah, I would like most of the time to have more guests on. It's going to be tough with the live shows to have guests, but we'll work on that. We'll work on some more guests, so you don't have to listen to my voice for an hour, because I can only imagine how hard it is to listen to my voice for a full hour. But again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for everything. Expect a podcast up for this tomorrow. Two tomorrow, hopefully. Expect some blogs. Sunday, look out for the Draft Bust Report, which I have a really fun one for basketball coming this week, because I know everything's been pretty football oriented so far, but we're going to do every sport. And I have a basketball Draft Bust Report coming out. Monday morning will be a basketball ranking page. Just look out for that. And as always, thank you. And I appreciate the love, guys. Thank you guys. Have a good night.